The laughter hit before I even sat down. I was still standing, straightening my suit jacket, when Rachel's boss handed me the place card like it was a party favor. Heavy cardstock, gold trim, elegant cursive that read, "Lazy failure riding coattails." I stared at it, blinked once, twice, thinking maybe I was reading it wrong. But then the whole table burst out laughing. Marissa, her VP, leaned forward, cocktail in hand. "Still tagging along, huh?" Her eyes sparkled like she was daring me to say something. Rachel didn't flinch, didn't look surprised. She just smiled and sipped her wine, like this was some inside joke I'd forgotten the punchline to. I looked at her, really looked. Nothing in her face said she didn't know. If anything, she looked like she was trying not to laugh. A guy in a blue suit across the table chuckled. "Man, corporate humor's getting spicy." Another one added, "Hope you brought your thick skin, buddy." I held that stupid card in my hand like it weighed 100 pounds. My heart pounded in my ears. I scanned the table. Nobody said a word in my defense. Not my wife, not her team. And sure as hell not Marissa, who sat there like a queen, smug as hell. Rachel didn't even reach for my arm, didn't whisper, "I'm sorry." She just kept chatting with the woman next to her like I wasn't even there. I slid the card into my jacket pocket. Didn't crumple it, didn't make a scene. But inside, something broke. I turned, walked past the dessert table, past the bartenders stacking empty glasses. Every step felt like fire in my gut. On the way out, I passed her CEO, tall guy, silver hair, probably worth more in stock than my whole life. He gave me a polite nod like I was just another spouse going home early. I stepped closer, lowered my voice and said, "Might be a good time to audit your offshore holdings." Then I walked out before he could ask what the hell I meant. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. I yanked off my tie in the parking lot, tossed it in the back seat, sat behind the wheel for a full minute, trying to breathe, trying not to puke. That moment, sitting in that car, I knew one thing for sure. They wanted me humiliated. And Rachel, she let it happen. I started the engine, and I didn't look back. 6 months before that gala, I sat at our own dining table, carving roast duck I had made myself, while Rachel dropped the line like she was discussing the weather. Derek tinkers with some accounting projects from home. That's how she introduced me to a table full of investors, founders, and tech execs. I'd just wrapped up an investigation into a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme at a credit union. 2 financial journals had cited my findings. One called it a landmark case in forensic accounting led by an independent specialist. But to them, I tinkered. I looked up, paused mid-slice, and caught Marissa watching me. That smirk, polished, smug, and full of judgment, stretched across her face like she couldn't wait to see how I'd react. Then came the follow-up insult, gift-wrapped in corporate politeness. A CEO I recognized from Bloomberg leaned in and said, "How nice you have time for hobbies." Hobbies. Like I was Rachel's overgrown boy toy assembling model trains in the garage while she pitched Series C investors and reshaped entire markets. Rachel just smiled, didn't correct them, didn't even glance my way. I swallowed hard, forced a chuckle, and said, "Yeah, hobby that got 2 fraudsters indicted last quarter." The room quieted for a second, just long enough to feel awkward. Then Marissa took over. "Oh, that credit union thing, right? That was adorable. The headlines made it sound like a thriller. Adorable." I stared at my plate. That's what it felt like. I wasn't at a dinner party. I was the show pony who needed to stay polite while the grown-ups sipped Barolo and talked EBITDA. She knew what I did. Rachel had read every line of that report before I submitted it. She used to stay up with me while I cross-checked asset transfers and flagged the dummy vendors. But now I was a hobbyist, a tinkerer, a man lucky to be tolerated in her upgraded life. "Rachel told us you used to do client work full-time," a woman in pearls added, twirling her wine glass. "What made you step back?" I didn't. That's what I wanted to say. I gave up everything when Rachel's job moved us to Portland. I shut down most of my client list, lost my network, had to rebuild from scratch. But I just smiled and said, "Someone's got to keep the lights on at home." Marissa snorted. "That's what smart marriages are for. Efficient division of labor." Rachel laughed at that, not nervously, not apologetically. She laughed like she agreed. I excused myself after dessert, went out back and stood on the porch, hands gripping the railing like I might throw up. Inside, I heard them talking. I heard Rachel call me low maintenance. I heard someone ask if I was always that quiet. When I came back in, Rachel was clearing plates. She gave me a quick smile. "All good?" "Perfect," I said. Love being everyone's pet project. She either didn't hear me or pretended not to. That night, while she talked about Marissa's big pitch and the new VP she wanted to recruit, I sat beside her, nodding like a bobblehead, knowing exactly what just happened. They didn't respect me. They didn't fear me. And worse, Rachel made sure of it. I climbed into bed next to her, but it felt like sleeping next to a stranger. She was already on her phone, texting someone. I didn't even ask who. She rolled away from me before the screen dimmed, and I just stared at the ceiling. Something cracked in me that night. I didn't know it yet, but it was the sound of everything we'd built starting to come apart. She used to fall asleep next to me with her laptop open and highlighter stains on her fingers. 9 years ago, Rachel was just a girl in oversized hoodies and cracked nail polish, arguing with her econ professor over market elasticity. I met her in the library around midnight, both of us half dead from finals week. I was hunched over an old spreadsheet from my business stats class, cursing under my breath, and she leaned over and said, "That formula's wrong. You're summing the wrong column." I didn't even get annoyed. I just stared at her and said, "You always like correcting strangers?" She didn't smile. "Only when they're failing." That was Rachel, intimidating as hell, smart enough to make you double-check your own name, but there was something electric about her, like she had a 5-year plan in her back pocket and wouldn't wait around for anyone too slow to keep up. I was scrappy, hustling side gigs, selling used textbooks online, fixing student budgets for $20 a pop. I didn't have her discipline, but I had ideas. I asked questions. I stayed up late running mock client calls into a busted webcam because I wanted to build something real. We clicked fast. That night, walking back to her apartment, we made a deal. She said, "If we're both still standing in 10 years, let's make one promise. No competition, no jealousy. We build it together." I said, "Deal. As long as you don't start charging me for spreadsheets." She actually laughed. From there, we became a team. I helped her prep for interviews, grilled her on startup valuations, ran through case studies, even faked HR screening calls when she needed to practice tone. She helped me with pitch decks and legal templates when I started doing freelance bookkeeping from our couch. We shared wins, her landing her first real consulting gig, me signing my first 3 clients in one weekend. We shared losses too, like the time I lost a contract because I missed a licensing clause, or when her first firm went under 2 weeks after she joined. We shared everything. Late night ramen, grocery runs on quarters, even job searches. When she got her first big client, some Seattle-based AI firm, we were living in a shoebox apartment above a dentist's office. We turned our living room into a shared office. One half was her dual monitor setup. The other was my whiteboard full of tax deadlines and forensic checklists. The garage was where we packed up tax folders and where she took video calls when the Wi-Fi upstairs choked. We had no room, no money, no safety net, but we had something else, that edge, that push, that sense that we were going to make it, even if no one saw us coming. I didn't keep score back then. I didn't care who made more or who got the bigger headline. I just knew we were in it together. For a long time, we really were. Until slowly, we weren't. And then came Portland. Rachel got the offer in late spring. A strategic director role at a firm with stock options, a relocation package, and a line about global impact that made her eyes light up. We were still on the couch when she showed me the offer letter. It's a massive step, but I don't want to do it without you. I didn't hesitate. I shut down my client list that same week, walked away from everything I'd built, told myself it was the next phase, a new start. We'd built before, we could build again. At first, she pulled me in, asked what I thought of contracts she was reviewing, had me look over her onboarding packet. I helped her prep slides for her first town hall presentation. She even called me her secret weapon once in front of her new manager. That was before Marissa. Rachel met her a month in, VP of Strategic Growth, the firm's rising star, Ivy League, smooth talker, the kind of woman who said things like optics and alignment like they were commandments. It started small. Marissa thinks I should simplify this deck. Maybe you're going too deep on the data. Then it became, Marissa said your language might be a little niche for the C-suite. And then it was, that's not really relevant at that level. They're not looking for forensic detail. One night, I asked if she even wanted my input anymore. Rachel looked at me and said, "You're smart, Derek, but this isn't your space. It's a different arena." Just like that. Not cruel, just casual. Like my whole career had become a misfit toy. Our dinner conversations turned into lectures. She'd rattle off strategy plans, KPI updates, merger buzz. I'd say something, and she'd wave her fork mid-sentence and go, No, that's not the point." She used to ask questions. Now she gave recaps. She stopped inviting me to company mixers, said they were tight invites or just internal. I found out later spouses were there, just not me. Even our friends shifted, more of hers, fewer of mine. The couples we used to host turned into co-workers and people with six-figure watches and startup exit stories. I'd come downstairs ready to tell her about a client breakthrough, and she'd already be on Zoom, half listening, mouthing, later never came. Once, I left a finished report on the kitchen counter, an in-depth breakdown of a laundering operation hidden inside vendor invoices. She didn't even look at it, just tossed a grocery list on top. I wasn't a partner anymore. I was just there, a silent figure at the edge of the room while she climbed higher, louder, faster. She didn't need my thoughts, my work, or my time. She had Marissa for that now. She started texting me less during the day. At first I thought she was just busy. New role, high pressure, all that. But I'd see her phone light up across the room, and it was always the same name at the top, Marissa. And then the friendly texts started coming to me. "Hope you're keeping busy while Rachel's leading the charge. She mentioned you're still doing the accounting thing. Love how grounded you are. You're such a calm, low-key partner. Rachel's lucky to have that." Every message looked polite on the surface, but the tone was like a pat on the head, like she was reminding me where I stood. I showed them to Rachel one night, half laughing, half testing. "Your boss is hilarious. Think she's flirting with passive aggression?" Rachel barely glanced at my phone. "That's just her way. Don't overthink it," I said. "She keeps calling me low-key like I'm a damn house pet." Rachel rolled her eyes. "She's not trying to insult you, Derek. She just appreciates people who aren't in her face all the time." That shut me up, but not because she was right, because it was the first time I realized she'd stopped defending me. Then came the countertop conversation. We were picking out materials for the kitchen remodel. I suggested quartz, durable, sleek, easy to maintain. Rachel stared at the samples and said, "Marissa actually recommended this other one. Said it's what all the high-end homes are using right now." I looked at her. "Since when is Marissa your design consultant?" "She just knows what's trending," she said. "And she has taste." I opened my mouth, closed it. What the hell was I even doing there? After that, everything became about what Marissa said. Contractor referrals, event RSVPs, even how much red meat we should be eating. "Marissa says it inflames the gut," Rachel mentioned once, while dumping my steak into a Tupperware container for later. My opinions didn't matter anymore. I'd try to share updates on my projects, the case I was building for an embezzlement ring, a lead on a mortgage scam, and she'd nod without listening. "You should put some of that in a blog or something," she said once. "Might be a fun little outlet." Fun little outlet. That line stuck with me for weeks. The worst part? The isolation didn't feel sudden. It was slow, like being moved to the outer circle of your own life. One skipped conversation at a time. One group dinner you weren't invited to. One executive spouse party where the only thing people asked was, "So, what exactly do you do again?" Then came Tyler, new analyst under Marissa, 30, loud and full of buzzwords. The kind of guy who wore loafers with no socks and introduced himself like a personal brand. Rachel mentioned him in passing at first. "Tyler's sharp. He's been helping Marissa with some ops restructuring." But he kept popping up. Tyler and I stayed late finishing the CapEx model. Tyler had a good idea about restructuring the training materials. Tyler and Marissa think we could push into new markets. I asked, "Are you two working directly now?" She shrugged. We crossed paths. "He's around. Why?" I didn't answer. One Saturday, she left her iPad open on the couch. A Slack message lit up from Marissa. "Tyler wants to know if you're bringing your +1 to the conference dinner, or leaving Derek at home like usual." Rachel replied with a laughing emoji. I sat down, stared at it for a long time, then closed the screen. I got home, took off the suit, and hung it up like it was covered in blood. Then I sat down at my desk, opened my old drive, and pulled up the files I hadn't touched in years. Audit reports, vendor statements, flagged transactions from companies Marissa had touched before Xenix. This wasn't revenge, it was work. I started cataloging. Shady leasebacks from her consulting days, a pattern of asset transfers right before quarterly filings, vendor invoices for strategic facilitation that matched up with nothing but calendar gaps and fluff. Everything had a timestamp. Every transfer left a breadcrumb. You just had to know how to follow the trail. By morning, I had a map. 4 days later, I posted a 14-page breakdown across 3 high-traffic investment forums. The username was generic. The language was professional but sharp. I didn't speculate. I cited SEC filings, balance sheets, internal public memos, stock performance tied to announcement windows. I included Marissa's name 3 times. No accusations, just facts. And I made sure the pattern was undeniable. 2 hours later, it had over 500 upvotes. By evening, an independent finance analyst with 200,000 YouTube subscribers uploaded a 10-minute video walking through my entire report. He called it one of the tightest civilian audits I've ever seen. Friday, Xenix's stock dropped 11%. Monday morning, the SEC launched a preliminary review. But I wasn't done. I went deeper. Cross-checked stock repurchases during blackout periods. Found a cluster of options exercises linked to shell companies. Traced advisory contracts that led back to people who didn't even have LinkedIn profiles. Rachel texted me Thursday morning. Big news at work today. You'll hear about it. Marissa's furious. I didn't answer. That night she came home with takeout. You okay? You've been quiet. Busy, I said. Just a fun little outlet. She flinched barely. I posted the second drop that night under a new username, spread it across investor Reddit, LinkedIn under a burner profile, and sent a copy to 2 financial watchdog groups. The headline was blunt: repeated irregularities in strategic reporting by Xenix Systems leadership. It got picked up by a Substack that catered to tech investors. Then, Yahoo Finance ran a blurb. I watched it all unfold with the same focus I'd used when I was 22, building audit trails in our garage. Only this time, I wasn't helping a system. I was dismantling one. And nobody saw me coming. The message came in on a Tuesday night. No subject, no signature, just a burner Proton Mail address and a zipped folder. Inside, internal memos. All from Xenix. All signed off by Marissa. She'd personally approved a string of expense reclassifications that shifted marketing costs into R&D, inflating their innovation spend. A few of them even backdated. That alone was enough to light a fire under auditors. But there was more. Vendor receipts that looked clean, until you noticed the payments were being split into smaller chunks and paid through a shell billing office in Denver. Same EIN, different names. Whoever sent it knew what to look for. Then came the second email. Subject line: thought you'd want this. Another zip file. Slack screenshots. A group chat labeled C-Suite Banter. The thread was short, but it cut deep. Tyler: Marissa, that card idea was legendary. Marissa: I told Rachel it was perfect. Cruel, but clean. Rachel: wouldn't be the first time. Time-stamped, Gala night. Right as I was walking out of that ballroom with that card in my pocket, my whole body went still. She knew. She was part of it. She laughed while they gutted me in public. I sat at my desk, read the thread again. No doubt, no gray area. She wasn't just a bystander. She helped design the hit. I didn't get angry. I got clear. I updated my report, layered in the memos, added the screenshots, highlighted the fraudulent coding, the personal sign-offs, the real-time mockery from leadership. Then I crafted a clean, anonymous drop packet. I picked 10 financial blogs and watchdogs with real traction, the kind that made corporate PR teams sweat. Each got a different version, all traceable to the same core story. One of them, a sharp tech reporter out of Chicago, bit hard. 2 days later, her headline dropped: Executive misconduct and financial irregularities at Xenix Systems. The story exploded. Screenshots posted, memos linked, forums went nuclear. People found Rachel's LinkedIn, clipped her interviews, dragged up her quotes about empathy and leadership. Xenix's PR department scrambled. Marissa's profile vanished. Rachel locked her Twitter. The stock free fell another 9% in a day. I watched it from my desk, sipping coffee. The Slack thread still burned into my mind. I thought about the ramen nights, the garage, the promises we made on that long walk home. Then I thought about the smirk on her face when Marissa handed me that card. She bet everything on their little empire. I was done letting her cash it in on my silence. She came through the front door just after 5. No keys jingling, no call out, just the slam of the door and footsteps down the hall. Her heels clicked like she was trying to outrun something. I stayed seated at the dining table, laptop shut, folder already laid out beside my coffee mug. Rachel stepped into the room, pale, wired, jaw tight. "I think you're behind this." I didn't flinch. "Took your place card seriously." Her eyes narrowed. "You're going to ruin us." I stood slowly, not angry, not smug, just done. "No, Rachel," I said. "You ruined us. I just exposed the rot you let grow." She froze, like that was the first honest sentence she'd heard in weeks. I slid the folder across the table. She opened it. First page, a copy of the financial memos. Second, Slack screenshots. Third, divorce papers, and tucked behind them, a signed offer letter from a corporate forensics firm in Chicago. Senior lead, fraud investigations, full benefits, 6-figure base, performance bonuses. "They want me to build the new fraud division," I said. "Turns out my little projects matter." Her hands trembled slightly on the paper. "You were just waiting for a chance to get back at me?" I shook my head. "No, I was waiting for you to remember who we were. You didn't." "Derek..." "No," I cut in. "You laughed at me, in public, behind my back. You let them tear me apart and called it strategy. You handed them the match and watched them burn what we built." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes darted across the folder, but she didn't touch the divorce papers again. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair and headed toward the door. She didn't follow. She didn't beg. She just stood there, silent, still, like someone realizing the empire she built came at the cost of the one person who actually had her back. I walked out, didn't even bother to close the door gently. My new apartment had no shared closets, no silent dinners, no fake laughs over wine I didn't order. The mugs in my cabinet were plain white, no corporate logos, no inspirational crap, just clean shelves, sharp corners, and peace. I worked from the 22nd floor downtown, glass windows on 3 sides. My office smelled like fresh paper and fresh start, 2 monitors, minimal clutter, a nameplate on the desk that read, Derek Halston, Director, Corporate Forensics. My team was 8 strong, analysts who didn't second guess. When I said dig, they asked how deep. When I marked something as suspicious, it didn't go up for discussion. It went under review. We investigated executive fraud across 3 sectors: tech, healthcare, private equity. The stuff you don't see until it's too late. Expense manipulations, asset swaps, insider trades disguised as reorgs. My reports landed heavy, printed on thick paper stock, the kind you don't toss. Clients waited for them like they waited for earnings calls. Some called them corporate death notes. I like that. A month after I started, Rachel's company collapsed under its own ego. Stockholders sued, partners fled. Marissa disappeared from every platform overnight. Word was she resigned quietly and moved to Arizona. One morning, I got a text from a number not saved in my phone. "I never should have let them do that to you. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a second. Just one beat, then I deleted it. Because here's the truth. I didn't need her apology, didn't need the closure. I already had it. I got it the moment my first report brought down $1 billion scam with nothing but data, grit, and the same instincts she once called niche. The quiet guy with the hobbies had become the man people feared in boardrooms, the one who could end a career with 3 pages and a signature. And this time, I had no one to thank but myself.